Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So just to quickly go over everything that we've done in one single video. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language. People sometimes call it programming language. Technically, that's not correct, but it doesn't really matter. Look, it's a query language. Basically, it means you extracted data. Some people use variations of the word, extracting data from a database, pulling data or getting or fetching data from a database. It just basically means let's use a select query to get data for whoever needs it. And when you do that, when you get data from a SQL database, it's like they might want to use it for just to see it themselves. They might want to use it themselves in Excel. Some people just use it to then, I don't know, put it into some sort of application. Most of the time it's just for something like your manager or some other people within the business. They just want to see the data. So that's why SQL is important. Vendors basically means the different types of database service, SQL database servers. So you've got MySQL, SQLite, PostgreSQL, Oracle, Microsoft, blah, 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 blah. All of them, they are all SQL databases. Some people use data warehouse for like Redshift and BigQuery. They'll call it a data warehouse. For now, don't worry too much about the difference between a database and a data warehouse. Pretty much a data warehouse is a database. But then if you want to get technical about it, you can just look into that. But for now, honestly, let's focus on SQL. Anytime you want to connect to a SQL database, the main things that you need is a host, or sometimes they call it server address, or host name, or server name, or whatever it is. It's going to be an IP address or a URL, which looks something like, this XYZ at whatever, Redshift, Amazon, something.com. Username, it can be read only, it could be called reporting, it could be called anything. Yeah. And then obviously you've got a password. So those are the three main things that you need to connect to a SQL database. And then you're thinking, how do I connect though? So a SQL database or a SQL server, it will be sitting somewhere in some sort of server. It could be on AWS cloud, Google Cloud. It could be in the office themselves. They got a fat off server over there, and the developers will create the database somehow. Let's say you got a website, and it sells products, and a customer comes onto the website and they buy a product. They might have something in the code that then puts data within the database each time a customer buys something or visits even the page. Even that data will go straight into the database. But as an analyst, you don't need to worry too much about that. You have to worry about grabbing the data, being able to extract the data from a database. Yeah. So to do that, you would use a SQL client, or they'll call it editor or query service or SQL GUI or GUI. Yeah. It's basically a software that you download, so then you can give it these credentials or these connection details. So then you can start writing SQL that extracts data from the database that you're working on. Yeah. So in terms of the structure of a database, you've got the database server, which is let's say Postgres or MySQL. This is what we're looking at. So in terms of the structure, you've got your server, MySQL or Postgres or Redshift or whatever. And then within the server, you've got a list of databases. And then within the databases, you've got schemas. And then within the schemas, you've got tables. And then obviously within the tables, you've got your data, which is your rows and your columns and the values in the table. Think of it like folders. Schema is like a folder. Think of a database within a server as like a folder. And then your actual server is the main or the root folder. In terms of writing queries, we did everything up until here. So essentially you got select, limit, where, order by, and then your aggregate functions. That's what they call it. Yeah. Aggregate, because they're aggregating it, they're totaling it, or do you know what I mean? They're doing something to collect all the data in one, as one value. So select basically means select. And again, look, I'm going to do this in a second to show you. So selecting is just selecting which columns you want. You would have to write select something from something, as in a table, to get the data. Limit tells you how many rows you want to return. So you could say limit 100, or you can say limit 50. And in some SQL databases, you can say from rows 20 to say 80, something like that. But most of the time, it'll be like just one number, top 10. So limit 10. Where is used for filtering. So once you selected stuff from your table, then you can say, if you want a specific specific types of rows to return. So for our film example that we did, we select all the columns from film, select star from film, and then we say where the rating equals G, and it only brings back data where the rating equals G. We've got order by, so anytime you write your query, at the end of it, you want it to be ordered by or sorted by, let's say, language ID, or you want it to sort it by date. You just write at the end of your query, order by whatever the date name is, creation date or start date, end date, last updated time. You just write it there, and then you can order it by that date or time or number, whatever it is. And then you can also write DESC, descending, to have it in descending order, which basically means from highest to lowest. You can also write ASC, which is ascending, which means from lowest to highest, but automatically by default it will be in ascending, so you don't need to write that at all. Sum, count, average, min, max, you just basically say select sum and you wrap it in brackets, whatever the value is, invoice total, you get a sum of that. Count usually is a count star, to say select count star as in select return all the number of rows in a table, and then average is to find the average, and then minimum and maximum to find the minimum and maximum of a certain column. So hopefully that makes sense. Charlotte, what I'm going to do is quickly go over this in a actual database. So demo.cloudbeaver.io, go to there because you can see the tables there. So let me get rid of this so you can see from scratch what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at this Postgres demo here. So when I click on it to ask me to connect to it. So let's say, for example, you're in a company and then you don't have anything. They might not even have this. They won't have this, in fact. You download something, let's say dbeaver or Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio or something like that. You first have to connect to a database. So what you do is go, you'd add a connection basically. Somehow, somewhere, they will say add a connection. Obviously, this is already, everything's here already, so you don't really need to do anything. But somehow, somewhere within the in the SQL editor, you can add the connection. And let's say you've added the connection. Maybe it says something like file, add connection. You've added it, and then you give it the username. The connection, the server name. You'd have to give it alongside the server. They're gonna ask for like the username and password. So for this particular one, Cloud Beaver, or specifically demo.cloudbeaver, before it's already given us the server, so we're just going to say the username and the password, which I believe is Postgres as well. I actually just tested this. I didn't know that this would work. I just tested. I just wrote Postgres hit, see if it works, and so like lo and behold, it actually worked. So that's fair enough. Okay, so sometimes you're going to have multiple databases here. Sometimes you might have just one or two, depending on what database you're working with or whatever the company does with that database. But this one just has one. So you can see that it's got the servers here, databases here, schemas are here. Don't worry about the rest of these things here. Schemas, and then most of the time you're going to see public. As sometimes you only just see public. But in any case, you go on public, and within the schema public, you got your tables. Views, materialized views, don't worry all about that for now. Abdulaziz asked about views, but basically that is a query behind every view. That's essentially a saved query. And when you run that, when I say run that, I mean when you say select all from one of these views, it basically brings back the results of the query. So we'll leave that for now. You've got your tables, and we've got actor, address, and all of that stuff. Yeah. So what we need to do is open a new SQL page, SQL editor. So for this particular, vendor, we have to click over there, and we've got SQL editor open now. And you can see it's connected to this server, it's connected to this specific schema as well. So we're going to say, if I start from here, I'm going to show you select. The main one is saying select star from, and then your table. And then for Cloud Beaver or dbeaver, we can hold control. If you see here, hold control, press enter, and it brings back the results. If we want particular columns, let's say we want actor ID and we want last name, we'll just type it in like that, control enter, and it brings it back. And it doesn't have to be in the correct order. You can have it like that, and they're separated by commas. If you want another column as well, add it in if that's the correct one. Yeah, last update. Then you got limit, which you basically say right at the end of the query, limit 100. It only brings back 100 rows. You can say limit 10 and it only brings back 10 rows. Yeah. Now we've got our where clause. Yeah. So let's say we want to say select all from our actor table, return just 10 because we just want to see what columns they've got, and we want to say, I don't know, where the actor ID equals say 5. Let's see if that works. Press enter, and then this is the actor ID with actor ID 5. So you can say equals, you can even say greater than 5, and these are all the actors where the actor ID is greater than 5, more than 5. Yeah, of course you can do less than 5 as well. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, but not 5. If you want to include 5, just put equals. So that basically means less than or equal to 5, less than or equal to 5, and it brings back 5 as well. See here? Cool. Same thing you can do with greater than or equal to 5. That just basically means bring everything that's bring all the actors with the actor ID that's greater than 5 and that equals 5 as well. So that Johnny guy is going to be somewhere in here as well. In some SQL databases, you can say between 5 and a certain number, but as we did before, it showed that I think between didn't really work that great. It seems to be working here, but hey, let me see if it does. Smaller numbers, 5. Okay, so it works now. Between 5 and 10. So you've got everything between 5 and 10. See? Cool. That's basically saying greater than or equal to 5 or less than actor ID is less than or equal to 10. Okay, no, that didn't work. And okay, my bad, you have to do and. So try and get that right. Or using or and using and. Yeah. So and basically means included. It's included. That means meet this criteria and meet this criteria. So they both have to be true for them to return what you want. If you say or, it basically means it could either be greater than 5 or it could be less than 10, whichever one. Yeah. That's where clause. Then you got your order by. Let's say if we left that back in, let me go back and say between 5 and 10, same thing here. But now we want to order this by actor ID. Say order by actor ID. Hit enter and it's ordered 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you add DSC at the end of it, it does it from highest to lowest. So that's order by. Now we're going to look at sum, count, average, min, and max. So let's get rid of this and let's look for a table where we can start using that a bit better. Let me see, maybe staff. Was it staff? I don't think they had that many. No, it doesn't. Test. Nothing. Okay, what I'll do is connect to SQLite instead. So I'm going to click on this. Okay, so I clicked on this and then I clicked on SQL here to open up another SQL editor. And I want to look at the tables, so I'm going to open this up. SQLite doesn't have schemas, they just have tables. So it doesn't have databases as well. So it's just got, one server or one database and then go straight into the tables. So let's do select all from, maybe we can do employee, like that. In any case, we'll just use this, yeah, because there's only 8 of them here. And what I'm going to do is sum. I think let's just do some of this here. So sum of employee ID, yeah. So you do sum employee ID like that. Wrap it in brackets. Press enter, and it basically gives you the sum of the employee ID. If we go back, just do select all. It's basically saying 1 plus 2 plus 3, so on. Count star, count the number of rows, and we've got 8. How do we know? It's because we can physically see it here. If we've got millions of rows and we don't know and we want to do a count, then it's easier just to do obviously count. And it doesn't matter if it's uppercase, lowercase. It can be like, you can do uppercase and you can do lowercase and it works. You can even have something like that, it'll still work. It doesn't care about the case. Yeah, that goes the same for these. Yeah, you can also do it like this. You know, you'll see a lot of SQL written like that. In any case, so we select all again, and then that's sum, that's count, average. Again, we can just do average of employee ID, and it'll give you the average of the employee ID, and then min and max. Obviously, it's the minimum and maximum. So that's min. Nope, sorry, oops, what am I doing? And then that's max 1, and then 8 for the max. And you can also use that on dates. So did I see a date in there somewhere? Hire date. Maximum hire date within the table is the 4th of March 2004. Same for minimum. It's gonna be the 1st of April 2002. Yeah. Just again on the where clause. So let's say, for example, we just say select first name and last name. Bring back the hire date as well. So here we've got a hire date. What I can do, let me see if this just works. I'm gonna wrap this in date, because what we've got here is the time associated with it as well, if that works. Yeah, it does. So we just bring back the date here. So let's say we've got this query. What we can do, in fact, as well, is if we wanted to change the headers, we just say as. It's called an alias. As, say first name, and instead of last name, just want last underscore name, and in this we can just say hire date. Cleans up the headers however you want. Yeah, so that's our query. Imagine that's our query, and let's say, for example, we want to order by employee ID. It's already ordered, so let's say we do the other way around. Yeah, in fact, even better, let's say we want to order it by last name. So it's in ascending order of the last name, A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way down there. What I wanted to show you was the where clause. So imagine we've got our employees here, and what we want to say is anyone that is, let's say, between a certain date. So we can say hire date is greater than or equal to, then we say 2003, 1st of 2003. This might not work. Let me try. Okay, fine, it works. The reason I say that is because I can see here that it's a string type and not a date type, but it worked, so don't worry about that. Got a hire date that's all greater than 2003. And let's say you say greater than 2003. Sorry, let me just say between 1st of Jan 2003 and let's say September.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please?
Shut up. Between the 1st of January 2003 and the 1st of September 2003. Enter that, and it's just this person, Margaret Park. Okay, so we've got group by select. I'm gonna do this for another time, inshallah. I'll keep this as it is, and then any questions, you guys let me know, inshallah.